Today we are talking about the woman at the well and Jesus' interactions there. Really, right off the bat, when the scene opens, there's going to be some shock to modern hearers, or to the current hearers in the first century, that Jesus, a Jewish rabbi, was in Samaria at all. And I know if you've really studied this in depth, you know that at this time there was animosity between Jews and Samaritans. And you may know that, but the real question that I have is why? Well, there's a long history, and it's funny because as we go through this piece of the history, it sounds very similar to the modern day. As a matter of fact, this kind of thing happens over and over throughout the Jewish history. So there's a moment in time where the Jews were conquered by the Assyrians, and the Jews were occupying that Samaria area, that region of Samaria. When they were conquered by the Assyrians, most of the Jews were taken out of Samaria, were kind of deported, and a lot of the Assyrians moved into that place that was formerly occupied by the Jews. Now, when that happened, the Assyrians also brought in their polytheistic religion. They brought in all their religion, and they were so gracious as to add Yahweh as one of their gods. And so, probably with the best of intentions, they added the one true God, Yahweh of the Jews, to this polytheistic religion, probably not thinking that they were going to be as offensive as that actually was. Over time, though, all of that polytheism kind of wore down until they only worshiped one God. They only worshiped Yahweh. So when the Jews come back and it's time to rebuild the temple, the people who are living, the Assyrians who are living in Samaria, are thinking, well, we worship the same God. We're gonna go and help you rebuild the temple. They offer to do that because they think they are worshiping the same God and they're kind of the same religion. The Jews, not so much. They are very offended by the assertion of these Samaritans that they worship the same God, that they are the same religion. And they just flat turn them down. No, you're not going to build the temple. You are unclean. If your hands touch this, this will kind of ruin the whole thing for us. So thanks, but no thanks. And all of that, that drama and that history smolders for a long time until by the time Jesus is there, there is widespread, not universal, but almost universal kind of dislike. Some more than others, some bordering on hatred between the Jews and the Samaritans, to the point that Jews generally didn't walk through Samaria. And even though it was kind of smack dab in the middle of where they were going, they would often take a route that would route them around and take additional time. So that's part of the background to this story. The other background to this story is some other details that we pick up. And you hear about Jesus being there at noon. And noon is an odd time for a woman to be coming to draw water from a well, because generally that was done in the early morning and later evening, which it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that in the middle of the day in the desert, you don't want to be carrying water around. So for her to be coming at noon is kind of peculiar. In addition, this well is on the outskirts of the city. It's a special well, though. The word used for this well is a word that means it's full of what's called living water. And so living water was way bigger than just describing natural water. So this means it was a spring-fed well, or maybe there was some sort of reservoir that was a stream or whatever. But there was moving natural water that is what filled this well, most likely a spring. For the Jews, though, living water was really important. We talked about it in the first week when we talked about the mikvahs, the ritual baths. They required living water for all sorts of rituals in their faith. And living water had a cleansing property. It had a deep spiritual meaning. And so when the subject of living water comes up at this well that is filled with living water, it kind of carries a little bit more weight than just saying this well is spring-fed. But the weird thing is that, yes, this well is spring-fed. It's odd that she's there at noon. It's also odd that she's there really at all. She would have passed by other wells in the city on her way to this one. And so it's the middle of the day. You would expect, if nothing else, that she would stop at the closest one. This is not the closest one. And so we really get a sense of the fact that this woman is trying to avoid something. And it doesn't take long for that to surface in the story, but it's kind of underwriting everything up until that point.